Welcome back to Talk of the Town on 99.7, 1450 WHTC and WHTC.com.
Welcome back to Talk of the Town for this Friday, August 21st. I'm Gary Stevens. We'll be up online following the 11 o'clock news. But on this third Friday of the month, our 10:30 segment, time now for Clerk's Corner. Not Coach's Corner, but Clerk's Corner with Allegan County Clerk Bob Genetski on the other side of our Zoom connection. Good morning, Bob.
Good morning, Gary. It's great to be back on Talk of the Town.
Before we talk about some serious things, and we do need to talk about some serious things involving your office, Bob, we do need to talk a little hockey, and I do want to start off with that. Stanley Cup playoffs, pretty much all the first rounds are in now. The usual suspects are in, but looks like the old coach took care of the Capitals on the east side, and maybe it was Gerard Gallant's problems right now because Vegas looked good in the 5-game elimination of Chicago.
Yeah, definitely. I'll tell you, I was surprised. It seems as if that Vegas team is built for the playoffs, and they show time and time again getting that top seed and then dispatching with the Blackhawks pretty quickly there.
And then, of course, on the other side, I mentioned the Islanders situation in eliminating Washington. Bruce Boudreau, Barry Trotz, I should say, getting revenge on his whole team.
Yeah, Barry Trotz has a way of circulating, coming back around, and being really tough on the teams that he coached before, doesn't he?
Yeah, between that and his time with Nashville as well.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some serious things, most notably the Allegan County Clerk's office. And if you have a question for Bob, he'll be happy to answer it at 395-1450, 395-1450. Because of a snafu, we've had to extend the August primary election for some districts, some precincts in Holland through this week. First of all, how has it been on your side of the ledger in terms of getting the situation taken care of?
Well, first of all, I'm not going to avoid the language. It's a snafu might be a little kind. It was a mistake. And when we conducted an audit and looked back at our office and our procedures, we found exactly where the mistake was made and who made it. And disappointing, because I would hate to feel that any Holland voters were disenfranchised or wouldn't be able to participate in an election. So we are still investigating the entire situation and the machinations that created that. But let's own it. It was a mistake that left 2 Allegan County proposals off ballots in the city of Holland, and I'm still pretty angry about the situation. On the flip side, I'm very glad that those voters will get to participate in the election. But as you mentioned, that opportunity is delayed for Holland voters. But it's not just the Holland voters who are affected by that. The other interested parties or stakeholders for those 2 proposals are having to wait much longer than everybody else to get final results on that. As you are aware, the ballots for the 1,701 Holland City voters on the Allegan County side of 32nd Street have begun receiving those ballots. I want to give tremendous credit to the Holland Clerk's office, and interesting in listening to the news segment, the Holland City Post Office and the local carriers did a phenomenal job. I was hearing as early as Tuesday that people were receiving those ballots, and let me tell you why that's important in my mind, Gary. As you're aware, there was a very tight window, a tight turnaround for when those ballots are received, when they have to be back by law. I have no flexibility over it, and neither does Holland City or Allegan County. The law states that those special mail ballots need to be back within 5 business days of being mailed out. So thanks to the Holland City Clerk's office and the Holland Post Office and the letter carriers there that turned around those ballots quickly. Voters in Holland get a little bit of extra time to study the proposals, study the issues, and get those back to Holland City Hall by next Tuesday at 5 p.m.
Now, let me preface this by saying that in getting the ballots out, maybe some more problems have been brought up, and Peg has got that aspect of that.
I just want to know where the mistake happened. Did it happen in your office? Did it happen in Ottawa County's clerk's office? Did it happen in Holland clerk's office?
Yep, I was disappointed that that Ottawa County was even brought up. That the mistake's not theirs, as you know, because Holland City Hall, the seat of Holland City government, is in Ottawa County. Ottawa County builds the ballots for even the Allegan County portion. But the mistake lands right in the square with our elections division and with our elections coordinator. Whenever we receive language for any proposal, that language needs to be either built into our ballot or sent to another jurisdiction or both. And in this case, it was built into the ballots throughout Allegan County, but it was not forwarded on to Ottawa County. So that no fault of theirs whatsoever, completely in our office.
So your elections coordinator has had some issues in the past, 2018, I understand. And then did you miss anything else? Did your office miss anything else with other jurisdictions during this last election? I apologize for not tracking that. I know there's a lot of overlap with these counties and these school districts.
There is a lot of overlap. We did not miss anything else, but it was disappointing. To miss anything is disappointing. There are checks and balances. You know, we exchange with Ottawa County draft ballots and stuff like that. We look those over, but it's all based on the language being sent to the other jurisdiction.
Now, the other thing too, Peg, and I think I'll have you phrase the question. Go ahead.
Which one is that?
The other one about
that I just mailed you?
Yeah. The other
So
one.
I got this in an email from Mark Ludwig. He said that let me find this because I just sent this to Gary. He said 442 of 608 mailers in support of the Conservation District special election had mostly bad or incomplete addresses. We got that list from Clerk Genetski. I presume he means from your office. You didn't probably have it in your pocket and hand it to him, but the majority, 442 out of 608 addresses were bad or incomplete.
Those addresses were taken from the poll book on election day, where the people who had shown up and the addresses that were there. The actual addresses that that we used to mail out the ballots and that the City of Holland was heavily involved with was also sent to Mark Ludwig, and that was an Excel sheet that had the exact addresses that are on file with the Holland City Clerk's office. We checked with the Holland City Clerk yesterday, and at that point, none of the ballots had been returned for bad address at all.
Okay, so that does clarify that a little bit, but
Great.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, what happens if there are bad addresses in that cluster?
Of the ballots that were mailed. Now, again, we're talking about two different things. You're talking about a private mailer from an organization, and I have no idea how they addressed those envelopes. But you got a private mailer from a specific organization, and then you've got the mailing of the ballots. To our knowledge at this point, none have been returned at all. And we've heard from a decent number of Holland City voters who have called us to ask about the turnaround. Can they use the drop box? You know, does it have to be there by 5 p.m. on Tuesday? Yes. If they are returned to City Hall, then we would try and track down that voter as best as possible. But it would be very odd because those are the exact same addresses that were used to mail out their AV ballot applications as well as their AV ballots in the first election.
So the addresses you gave to Ludwig were not based on those same address lists that you used to mail out ballots?
No, they should have been the exact addresses that we have for those voters. That's a very strange situation. I got an email from Mark as well, and he did clarify a little that in some cases the east or the west, 31st Street was left off of the envelopes that they sent out. I couldn't tell you anything about. I was not a part of their mailer.
So you're saying it's a possibility that it wasn't because the addresses that were given by your office were incorrect. It may have been a printer error that resulted in over 400, almost 450 of these addresses being bad in the case of the Conservation District mailers.
That's a possibility. I have no idea what mailing house they used or exactly what was put on those envelopes or how they were done. And all I know about is the mailing of the ballots.
Okay. That takes care of what Peg had. 395-1450, 395-1450. If you have a question about the elections or maybe we've got problems with a deed situation, Bob has talked to us about the deed fraud and becoming not defrauded, but deed fraud that has happened and his office is trying to fight that. Or maybe you're a veteran, you need some documentation. Bob's office can handle that at 395-1450, 395-1450.
I'm glad you bring that up, Gary. Had a rather sad situation this past week. A widow called in fact, an ex-wife of a veteran called in and asked if she could enroll the veteran's DD 214 posthumously after he had passed away, because she wanted to ensure the veteran's grave marker there. Unfortunately, we really need those DD 214s enrolled when the veteran comes down, him or herself, to do that. We can't do that posthumously. And particularly from a family member who's not listed on any of the veterans' criteria. So that's really important. I want to encourage everybody who separated from the military in an honorable way to make sure to get down to the county clerk's office. We are open. We are accepting DD 214s. And that's something that you do, not only for yourself. We've had people come in and do it and say, I don't need the veterans benefits tied to this. My family's okay. But it's something that you also do for history, for posterity, for your family, if they should someday need veterans benefits, and so that marker that goes on the gravestone with the veterans insignia on there is able to be accessed easily. Keep in mind that the funeral homes do reach out to us, and it completely makes it a lot easier on a family when that occurs, because they don't have to chase things down. If we've got that on file, we can work with the funeral home after the passing of the veteran, which makes it a lot easier on a widow or on children or anybody trying to get that. It really cuts down the paperwork there.
395-1450, 395-1450. Bob, I mentioned the deed situation and the fraud situation. You and I have talked about this, and so we've had a conversation with Justin Roebuck, your colleague in Ottawa County, about this. We have seen some of the identity protection entities get involved with this particular situation, and I think Justin brought up a good point, and I want to bring it up with you as well, Bob, is the fact that, yes, it's nice to maybe have some of these identity protection entities help you in that regard, but I think more effectively than anything else, and maybe you can save a few pennies, deal with the county clerk's office or the Register of Deeds office in this case directly, instead of having to rely on some of these identity protection companies to try to do something that maybe you can do yourself a lot cheaper.
Yeah, I agree with Clerk Roebuck. It's never a bad idea, and keep in mind that we put all of our deeds online. You can go online as a member of the general public, go to AlleganCounty.org and look up the Register of Deeds office, do a public search, an online search of everything that is recorded in your name or under your name, and in fact, what's tied to your name. In fact, some people find out that there was a lien against the property that they hadn't really been paying attention to or something like that. So it's you can look at everything that is recorded in our office, search for free. You can purchase it for $1 a copy if you want to print it from home, or you could come into the office. But it's always a good idea to check every once in a while, particularly to make sure that things like liens are taken off your property as you pay off those situations, if you're in any of them. And as well, you can check and see if anybody else has recorded anything on your name or against your property or something like that. Keep in mind, Gary, and it's a little known fact, recording something in the Register of Deeds office, be it Ottawa County, Allegan County, does not make something legal. It makes it public. It makes it a public document. So someone might try to record something against a property that you own, and that might not necessarily be a legal document or a legal entity, but it is a recorded and a public document in that case. So it's never a bad idea to go online and search what's out there, either against you or against your property.
Bob, how much are you paying attention to the USPS brouhaha right now, for lack of a better term, considering that it's going to involve mail-in ballots, absentee ballots? You following it at all, or just, hey, I just got to do my job?
Well, I play hockey with the letter carrier, and I was asking him about this the other day. He said, everything gets politicized. His perception is a lot of these reforms have to go on and have to occur and have to change things. He said he doesn't know if the timing is the best. He said, but there's really no good time to enact reforms that might change things at the post office. I do pay a lot of attention to it because we have a lot of people interested in participating in elections in a manner right now that's absentee or through the mail. I prefer absentee is what we really call it in Michigan. But if you mail your ballot with enough time, you should be in good shape. Keep in mind, if people are really scared of COVID, and that's why they want to avoid the polling precinct, they can still go to their local clerk's office well before the election and cast that ballot absentee, but in person with the clerk. So there are ways of avoiding COVID or a bunch of people if that's the big concern. But if someone is legitimately worried about the time it takes in the mail for a piece to get from one place to your local clerk, make sure to mail that in advance. I will also say, though, that with the mailing that we just did for the Holland voters, we made sure to mail that from the Holland post office. As you are probably aware, mail from the Allegan post office to get to Holland voters would have taken a much longer time, and voters in Holland would have had a much quicker turnaround in receiving that ballot and turning that into City Hall. So I think it's just a matter of being aware of how long it takes to mail something. If the election's on a Tuesday and you mail something on a Friday, boy, I would make sure you know that mail route, or I would just drop it off yourself to local clerk.
Good morning. You're on the line with Allegan County Clerk Bob Genetski.
Yeah, hi, Bob. Forgive me. I was out of the car for a moment. You might have said it and I didn't hear it. Was there a percentage of absentee in the most recent election that Ottawa County was a tremendous amount of absentee ballots, I believe. I thought it was.
Yeah, it's interesting. Countywide, we were looking at about 40%, which is very high for Allegan County. But there were a lot of jurisdictions where I had a lot more people show up to vote in person, which really surprised me.
Interesting. Okay, great. Thanks again for all you do.
I appreciate the call. Thank you. 395-1450, 395-1450. I believe it's Jocelyn Benson who made this proposal of having not only absentee boxes at the clerk's office, but absentee boxes at the polling places as well.
Yeah, and there were a lot of cases this time around, and you understand, Gary, when you talk about polling location in most of Allegan County's precincts, and I would say close to 80% of them, your polling location is also your clerk's office, so that that deposit box makes it a lot easier. We did have a few challenges with that this past cycle. We had 2 Saugatuck Township ballots dropped off at the Holland City office, and then we had 2 ballots show up at the county clerk's office in the deposit box outside 2 days after the election that were destined for the Allegan City Clerk. So there's also a certain amount of paying attention that we need people to do relative to that.
One final thing, and your office also handles licenses for concealed weapons. And there's been some issues about uncertified classes and training. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it's really important that when someone attends a concealed pistol license training class, that they make sure that class teaches skills that are endorsed by the NRA or another recognized group like the Michigan Coalition for Responsible Gun Owners. We're seeing a decent number of knockoff certificates at this point, Gary, and unfortunately sometimes people can't get their money back if somebody training in that class does not have the proper credentials. So a buyer should always make sure that he or she asks the appropriate questions of anybody conducting that training, and that they are doing training that is appropriate for recognized by the state on the application, which is going to be, again, either NRA certified or one of the state certified groups. And there's a few of those. They can look those up online.
My boo-boo on the production side there, Bob. I apologize for the brief sound there, but we will put a link to your office, which is, of course, the Allegan County Clerk and the Register of Deeds, when we put the podcast of our conversation on our website at WHTC.com. And of course, we're Zoom videoing it, so we'll have a link to the video as well a little bit later on today in the podcast description at WHTC.com. Bob, we'll button up the conversation right now, and I wish you and all in the office well over the next month or so. And if all goes well, let's do this again next month, shall we, Bob?
Sounds good. Stay healthy and well to you and all the listeners.
Thank you very much. That is Bob Genetski, the Allegan County Clerk on 99.7 and 1450 WHTC.